Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Mike and Zach. What's up, gentlemen?
It's me eating my words.
Did you? Okay, I have to ask. Because we did like a 10-minute pre-show discussion, and not once did I see that spoon until just now. Were you waiting to set this up?
Yes.
Is that it? Is there anything even in that bowl?
No. It's my kid's bowl. It's play bowl. I'm driving home today, and I'm like, I need to do something funny because I got ratted out on the chat during your guys' game, David cast your game, and we're gonna talk about it more in the chat, in the cast. And I'm driving home. I'm like, I need to grab Renly's bowl and spoon, and when we open up, I'm gonna be like, I'm eating my words, because those words specifically that I've been called out for were that Kyle Dornbus does not leave units for people to shoot in games. And I was very adamant that, it never happens. And I redacted that. I said 9 out of 10 times it doesn't happen that Kyle leaves a unit out there.
In my defense, a bark is not a unit. So
I don't know, man. So it's funny you say that, because I tuned into Endless's stream today before the cast, and I tuned into hearing, and so there's 6 barks in this game, 3 on each side.
I have a newfound respect for barks, but we'll get to that.
Oh man! But anyways, I'm eating my words that you never leave a unit out to dry, and but I did choose the winning team. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike scrambled my circuits. I think my brain was still on the loading screen for the first 3 turns of that game. But anyway, let's hit news first, because besides the fact that Mike and I played a game, we actually got some fairly significant Legion news. So do you have any housekeeping first, Mike, before we get to news?
I have no significant updates other than if you want to support us, check out our Patreon, check out thefifthtrooper.com/store, and check out Cubicle Raiders, which is a game that we produced and developed and are selling online on the store. So check it out, but nothing new.
Awesome. All right, let's hit the news.
Welcome to In the News.
All right, so we got the first official Star Wars miniatures stream from Atomic Mass Games last week. Zach, you wrote an article on it. Do you want to summarize for us basically what was in that stream?
Yeah, I just kind of BS my way through it. I'm not gonna lie. I've been cashing in some articles lately because I haven't been playing.
Hang on, Zach. You got to be I worked hours on this.
I'm being
literally
honest.
In here, talking to his boss. He's like, "Yeah, man, I just phoned it in."
I don't care. I am an honest soul, and I know Kyle read that and knew that I phoned it in. But I shouldn't say I phoned it in.
Zach, it was a great article. Don't sell yourself short.
Well, no, I put my enthusiasm in it where, and I know we talked about it a little bit internally. I was not expecting a lot of the things that they brought to the table. So let's go through them real quick. They were adamant about OP basically staying the same, basically going store level primes were still going to be a thing. Worlds was going to happen, eventually, which I think they said 2022 is what they're aiming for. And they're hoping for, store events to start happening late 21. My favorite thing of it all was that they were very keen about what's going on in the world, which I thought was a good update to be, fully aware of the situation at hand. And what I mean by that is that they can say these things, but at least they're giving themselves a bit of a shoot. If, vaccinations and things like that. I know we're not going to try and go too crazy here, but we're all trying to get better in the world, and we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they know that. But they also want us to be aware that might not go as smooth as we think. And if that's the case, then they'll have to rework it. But for now, we're going to aim for 2022. Now, going into the cast, their stream, I should say, I was not expecting them to hit OP the way that they did. So for me, personally, and I wrote this in the article, this was a breath of fresh air. I wasn't expecting any OP news, just kind of oh, well, here's what we're going to do. maybe a straight guideline for them to say that they're still going to continue with what they were going with. They're going to work with FFG with what they had. They're going to look into ways to do narrative events and different OP events. I thought was all fantastic news. On top of that, they gave us some previews. There were some rumors floating around about these two units, but we're going to end up seeing, and we're going to talk about it in, right now, is the Rebel speeder truck and the Lat LE. I'm blanking on the Rebel speeder truck. Is it the AA5?
AA5.
Yeah, it's the AA5.
It's ugly 5, but that's fine. They showed us the models, which were cool. The boxes look huge. Unless Simone's like really small, but those boxes like next to her were look huge. I think I wrote in the article, and Mike and I discussed the production of the the stream was a little, it could have been better. Yeah, I'm trying to be politically correct. I guess.
I understand you're trying to be polite, but it was terrible.
It was bad. I think we need to put in perspective though that they're working from home. It could have been better, sure, but the stuff that was within the stream was good. The OP, the news of units. Luke's going to be on. It's on March, on their next March stream. We're going to get 2 streams a month for Legion. It sounded like, or Star Wars in general, I should say. And mostly hobby based, which is fine. In any way, anyways, to have streams Star Wars based twice per month seems very good and productive to kind of keep the gears moving in all these games, especially when things aren't really moving right now because of everything going on in the world. I don't know. I felt good with what I heard. I talked about it last week in the cast. I just needed some solid ground to stand on, and they gave me more than that, and I'm happy with what I heard. I do hope that we see production value go up as times get better, Mike, so I am with you. I would start to get concerned that if things get better in the world and they're still giving us, this at-home production that's a little, not what we're up to par with FFG, because FFG, for all that we faulted them, so at times they had good streams. Their streams were actually very, very solid, and their production value was very, very solid. But I don't know. How do you guys feel? I felt like the information inside the stream, quality aside, was pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't actually get to watch the stream itself, so I can't comment on the production value, but I was very excited to hear sort of the download of the information.
I don't know. I'm a mixed bag on this. There was a few things I really liked. A couple of them you haven't mentioned. So the first, which was important to me personally, was they are going to, or they at least are saying they're going to, honor current world invitees to the next worlds. That was a big deal for me. I know that for
huge
a lot of people it probably isn't a huge deal, but for I don't know. I think that that's really important. We
worked hard for those invites, and
it's just it's, you fly all over the country to go to these big events, and yeah, you can get them at RPQs or Prime Championships or whatever, but most of the invites are from so I don't know. That was a big deal for me. The other thing that I was pretty excited about was they were talking about releasing a super encounter, like the Thanos and Hulk encounters for Marvel Crisis Protocol, and they're gonna do one for Vader with the Vader Down comic. And if you haven't seen the Vader Down comic or read it or whatever, that's the comic that Fear and Dead Men is based on, and he's standing in the field surrounded by 300 rebel troopers, and they say something to the effect of stop, put your guns down, you're surrounded, and Vader just turns around and says, the only thing I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men. And it just, I don't know, that sort of thing excites me. So
it's too bad that the card in the game means that Vader probably dies, but that's besides.
Yeah, the card in the game maybe is a little lackluster, but I think that narrative stuff like that may help these characters that maybe aren't super good in competitive play see the table in ways that are cool and important, and maybe they're not tournament viable, but at least they don't just sit on the shelf the whole time. So I'm excited about that. I was, as we already mentioned, less than excited about the production value of the stream. I'll give them a mulligan on that. But I also was not super thrilled with the May 20th release date that they threw out there for these new vehicles. I don't know how about you guys felt about that, but we don't even have a release date for Callus and Lando yet. So I felt like it was kind of strange that they were giving a release date for these guys, and it was super far away to boot. So that felt odd to me.
Only thing I can think of is that, and this is speculation for me, and I don't have like any insider information. This phone doesn't have inside information. I'm just thinking that the transition between the two companies, I know that they're kind of like, it's almost like a shell game. If you really think about it, they're kind of the same company, but not the same company. I'm thinking that the shift is probably causing a bit of a delay. If I had to take a guess,
I mean, it's got to be, right? Like, all this product was branded FFG. It's pretty clear that, like, this isn't stuff AMG worked on. Like,
I think they mentioned that, like the year 21, whatever releases for 21 is going to be branded FFG still. And then 22 is when you're going to see it branded AMG, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. I was kind of half watching at work and then half watching while I was driving, like listening while I was driving, not watching, but listening.
But they basically said that like the development process for a new unit internally at AMG is like 2 years. And I think that everybody's pretty on board with like, this was kind of a surprise transition. So for them to like have a new unit within the next year that AMG specifically produced seems a little bit,
if I had to take a guess, what's happening is that like they're shifting all the data over and they're going through whatever units that are at a production stage, right? And then they're evaluating where they want to go. And that's probably bogging up the actual like movement of the units because they're trying to basically cement where they want to go after they take over the game. And what I mean by that is like after like whatever the last unit that was prepared for by FFG gets produced, basically, right? So like you have that whole chain of events that have to happen. Here's where FFG stops. Here's where AMG starts, and they're probably trying to figure that all out before they say, "Hey, here's these boxes of units." So I just think we need patience, and I know that we've said this on many casts leading into this, and I'm advocating again is that we just stay patient. Especially when the news that we got in this stream and then the OP announcement the day after kind of alleviated a lot of doubts people had, if I had to take a guess.
Yeah, I think that's
definitely. And I mean, we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Shipping right now internationally is kind of a disaster. So, there's just a lot of factors. At the moment, since there's no in-person games, I've got such a painting backlog anyway. I've got an army of B2s that I haven't painted yet. May 20th.
I'm not going to lie.
That's fine.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't even care about the date that it comes out. I will pick up these units when I start playing on a table again. Seriously. That's how I feel.
Very fair. My overall concern is just like how so I was talking to somebody about it. I forget who it was, but like, how could you possibly promise us that date? Like, is my problem.
It's weird. It's weird that they gave a date at all.
Yeah, it's like that was my red flag. It's not really that it's like so far out. It's like it's so far out. How could you possibly?
I wonder if they actually have the product and they actually know that stores are going to get this product by an X amount, like an X date, but they're really just trying to get all of their eggs in a basket before they start putting it out. That's the only thing I could think of. Seriously, like
it's very possible.
And to be fair, if that is truly the case, which we will never know, but if that is the case, that actually feels a lot better than how FFG was handling things. I would rather them give us a date and have a plan that they're working on that actually works than give us a date and things fall through. Now, of course, if May 20th comes through and those units aren't on the shelf, well, that podcast the next day, I'm going to take this bowl out. I'm going to take this exact spoon and I'm going to eat my words. But I truly hope that we're actually turning a corner with the company that has the game in their hands and they're actually putting together a plan and they're going to follow through with it. And it felt like that. I did feel that watching the stream, that they were passionate and they seemed like they had a plan. That's what I wanted to see. And I got that and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, the fact that we're getting basically total continuity with the OP structure, I'm going to be excited to see Luke on the stream in a month talking more specifically about Legion. Clearly, he's still around. So as far as like continuity is concerned, I think when this news was announced a couple months ago, basically we were like, let's just wait and see what happens. There's no reason to panic yet. And I think we're in a good spot with AMG. I feel pretty good. So I was very encouraged just by the general tone of the news, the fact that OP is going to continue to be a thing, the fact that they care about the game and are moving it forward. So yeah, I'm excited. All right, you want to talk about our game, Mike?
Do I want to talk about our game?
The royal you. Yes.
Game. So for those of you that were not hanging out in Twitch chat with David and Zach, not that Zach was not casting, but he was, I'm sure, hanging out in chat.
Oh yeah, I had it on the iPad. I was watching it intently. Well, I shouldn't say. In moments, I was watching it. You could tell when the big moments were happening. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, totally. So I guess for some background, about 6 hours before the match, I DM'd Zach and I DM'd him a list, and I was like, "Hey Zach, what do you think about this?" And Zach, you said,
what the hell am I looking at? I think is what I said. I said, what the hell is this?
Why don't you talk about what it is?
So Mike tells me he's waffling. He sends me this list. And first of all, he prefaces it with, I might play Maul AAT. And I was like, well, how many reps do you have with Maul AAT? I actually think that's a good list for this map. There's open areas for the AAT to hit, but there's also areas for Maul to infiltrate and jump. I'm like, I like that. But I said, how many reps do you have with it? And he said, enough, but maybe not enough, right? Because he's playing Kyle. Like, it's not like he's, it's important to think about who he's playing here, right?
I would have much rather faced that list, for the record.
"Oh,
yeah." So it's funny now that I've had the time to think about it. Okay, in the moment, he sends me this triple bark list, and I'm not saying that this list is any good, and I'm going to explain my thought process before and after.
Well, hang on, it's not just triple barks.
Yeah. Hold on, it's Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Anakin, 3 barks, and core. I don't even know if they even have heavy weapons. I don't think they did.
It was 4 phase 1s, 2 of which had portable scanners.
Yeah, portable scanners. So I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? I said, if you're trying to play two Jedi and run with a bid, which was the whole point, because it started with, maybe I should just go for bombing run. And I think Mike said something to me like, well, they're actually decent on breakthrough. And I was like, I don't think they're good on breakthrough at all. But that's besides the point. I'm like, if you're going all in on bombing run, why not put arcs into the list and make it a competitive list and just lean on your Jedi. And of course, he brings up a good point that Kyle's been playing situational awareness, which we've been dunking on you for. And I understood where he was going through with the barks. I just think barks suck. That's just plain and simple. And now
that's what I thought too.
Now here's my post-game analysis. I was effing wrong for the main reason of, I still think barks are not that great, okay? But I've said this on the podcast maybe like 3 episodes ago when I was joking around trying to give advice to anyone that's playing Kyle. You want to try and make Kyle feel uncomfortable. And for some reason, when Mike sent me this list, I didn't think about it in that perspective. I didn't think about, well, this list is going to make Kyle be like, how the hell do I play against this? Because I've never seen anything like this. And when I see the bark turn the corner and hit the strike team, that made me eat my words. I was like, Kyle literally did not know what to do for like turns 1 through 2, maybe even 3, simply because he felt uncomfortable because he's so used to playing against, not cookie cutter lists, but not lists that are wackadoo, because this list is wackadoo, no matter which way you cut it right now.
Well, hang on. I am also familiar with several wackadoo lists, and
yes,
I'm perfectly fine against them. This was not one of them.
No, this is 2 lightsabers with 3 barks.
Right.
No heavy weapons. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. It's not just cookie cutter versus not cookie cutter. It's familiar versus not.
I mean, we're talking.
Clearly, this was in the not category.
This is in this is in like right field of Wrigley Field. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. Needless to say,
maybe Petco Park. Wrigley's pretty close.
Needless
anyway,
to say,
continue.
No, you're good. I get what you're getting at. For baseball fans, Petco Park is a pitcher-friendly park. So, needless to say, Mike brings a bid. Ironically, I think he brought this list for Bomb and Run. He got Hostage Exchange, which I think was actually way better.
Oh, it was so much better.
Like, and way better for this
really
situation at hand.
It didn't occur to me how much better it was a Hostage Exchange than Bomb and Run until like the middle of turn 1. I was like, oh, this game's kind of over. Like you know.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was over turn 0, and that's very rare for me to say that. Then when you turn the corner on that strike team, I was like, oh, it's definitely over. And you did some shenanigans with the Jedi in the middle, and it turns out double force push on Hostage Exchange against the list that has no counter to kind of melee units is really...
And no force push itself.
Yeah. Well, you know, and that's the thing. We discussed it afterwards, and I mean, for all of you that listen to this podcast, and I'm the one that, listen, this is your game, so I need to let you guys talk about this more, because I'm like the one that's going on like this rant here. But like, to give you the
we should describe what actually happened in the game. You're describing your takeaways, but those that haven't watched it don't actually know what happened yet.
My takeaway we'll go to afterwards, because it's the same thing that Kyle said to me post game. So we'll go for that, is because it hit home when you said it, Kyle.
Yeah. So let's talk about what actually happened first, and then we can talk about our takeaways. So Mike brought the aforementioned Anakin, Obi-Wan, 4 phase 2s, 3 naked barks.
Oh, 4 phase 1s. Let's get this
I'm sorry. My bad. 4 phase 1s.
We're taking all units I've wrapped on.
With portable scanners. Yeah. It was the complete, just complete out of left field list. The last thing I would have expected you to play. Anyway, I had you did a lot of waffling. I got down to my computer like 5 minutes before the game started. I'm like, oh shit, I need to send. Sorry, you can bleep that out. I need to send a list to the judge, and I need it to be something that I already have a disc for in TTS, because we got to play in 5 minutes. So I literally just played what I played last time against Zodiac, which is, a good counter Republic list if your opponent is playing any sort of normal Republic list. It was basically clearly not. It was just the Cassian K2 Chewie situational awareness sniper list, basically, which is great against any normal Republic list or most other gunline lists. But on a map with ginormous line of sight blockers in the middle against 2 force users, not so great.
It's not even just that. It's 2 force users, but one of them that really likes to get into the fray early if possible to protect him from getting suppression.
Yeah.
And hostage exchange, right?
And hostage exchange. It was like the perfect storm. During deployment, I was like, there were a couple things. So first of all, clearly that's a great setup for 2 force users. And it's important to kind of note there that bidding, I mean, all the objectives in your deck would have been bad for me. It's not like you got quote unquote lucky with hostage. Clearly that was good.
What were your cards? Breakthrough, bombing run, hostage, and recover?
I got a little bit lucky on the cards, because I think I tilted you from the get-go. And because it was breakthrough, hostage exchange, recover the supplies, I think.
Payload.
Oh, payload, sorry. Yeah. Payload in the top. And I think that hostage exchange was the worst for you.
It was, but I think I also had to veto something else.
That's very possible.
And I don't know if it was, I think it was like Limviz maybe, or
it may have
or hemmed in. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I needed 3 vetoes and I only had 2.
Totally.
Basically.
I just we ended up on battle lines, which was also super good for me.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons.
Yeah, but it was I think I vetoed hemmed in to get to battle lines, and then it was also danger close in the 3rd slot, so those would have all been bad, which sort of, just goes to the broader concept of, I don't think enough people are doing this. You can really make a very heavily tailored deck with vital assets being a thing now. Because I looked at those 9 cards out there and I was like, oh, this is I need like 8 vetoes, and then I need to swap out some of these for
Yeah,
cards that I like more.
It's like, this is not good.
Yeah. So anyway, we ended up on hostage exchange, which clearly is very good for force users against a list that doesn't have any force users. But I think there were still some outs for me potentially. There was like a moment in hindsight, I was able to. So turn 2, the predictable thing happened, which is Anakin dove in there against my hostage and force pushed them into melee with him. But the way that you did the melee, I think I was able to like drop my 5 dudes around him and then not fit a 6th dude, so I could put the unit leader like slightly away. So in hindsight, what I should have done is just withdrawn them, and then they would have been too far away for Obi-Wan to then follow up and force push into Anakin.
That was definitely the gateway of opportunity that I left you, and it was like one of those things. I think when I realized my mistake, like as soon as you activated and like and you went, and I was like, I have to fix this. So I immediately meleeed your unit with another core unit, so to like fix the problem.
Yep.
Which
Yeah. There was, I think I had like one activation window to pull that off, and I waited. I didn't see the counter melee thing coming, so I waited too long, basically. Clearly you perceived that correctly as the threat to the strategy, because then I could have just unloaded everything on Anakin.
Oh, and it would have been terrible. What I was attempting to do was to like drag your hostage back a ton, right? But so it was an issue with the fact that, and this was like, it wasn't running through my mind, because normally this isn't an issue because we're not running with 6-man core units, and like you can almost always fit 5 dudes around,
right?
Right? And the issue was that I didn't base the unit leader because I was trying to drag your unit leader back, and once you started cohering, I was like, oh, he's got too many dudes to fit around Anakin. This is actually not great. So. And just to, I guess, to preface this for people that may not understand why 2 force users are particularly good on this objective, it's because once you withdraw from the first force user, the other force user just like reels you back in, right?
Yep.
So it's very hard to get away. And so I mean, like, after you missed this window, like Anakin and Kenobi were pretty much in melee the entire game.
Yep. Yeah, it was actually a good showcase of like a lot of the nuances of the melee rules. Besides that one instance where I failed to capitalize on that, there was like another instance where I was able to cohere the unit leader into your hostage, which had been dropped, and then pick up both of them.
Yeah, I mean, you were up 2-0 at one point in that game.
At one point, yeah. But of course, you had 2 lightsabers and I had 0, so all my stuff in the middle died, basically.
Well, it was sort of like,
by the end of the game,
my barks went around the outside, and like they were just kind of like pushing your units into this funnel of Anakin Kenobi that were just like, I don't know. It was like your units were just being like processed through a blender, like 3 at a time.
Yeah. That was the other thing, is I totally underestimated the barks. So Zach in our opening talked about basically leaving a strike team exposed. They were naked barks, so in my brain, I had not faced naked barks before. So I'm just like, what are they going to do? They're going to hit me with a wet towel, basically. So I basically ignored them when I was deploying, which was clearly a mistake. So I lost the strike team on the first turn because it got flanked and then hit by, a 4-hit naked bark shot.
To be fair, I don't think you intended to leave them exposed like you did. I think you moved Chewbacca. If I remember correctly,
I had Chewie in guardian range of all my strike teams. And then I couldn't give an order to Chewie the first turn, so I pulled his token. And then I moved him up, and in my brain, he was like still in guardian range, but he wasn't. So
it was a good case of understanding tempo, right? Like Mike understood the tempo that needed for him, and I'm not saying that he needed to necessarily wipe that strike team to win the game, right? Because he still had 2 force users that could clog the middle, right? But Mike was also down 2 activations.
Yep.
It was 11-9 from the get go,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So Mike understood that bark flanking and chipping away that strike team was big to go from 11 to 10 versus 9. And I know that seems crazy, but being down 1 activation versus 2 is really big in this situation, especially when he needs those Jedi to go last when possible. So for him to kind of chip away a unit to then Kyle, you kind of had to almost react to that bark to go over there too.
Yep.
So it basically drew you away from your actual game plan that probably needed to happen, right? Like you focused on that flanking bark with I think you took a shot with a DLT and then another one with a DLT, maybe 2 shots early on that.
It was
bark.
So that's the other thing about the barks. I grossly underestimated how difficult they would be to kill. I think that first bark, I'm like, okay, he deleted a strike team. We're just going to trade a bark for a strike team. I guess that's okay. Because I had two other strike teams and a Z6 over there, and they all like aimed shot at it in the open, and I think I did like 2 wounds.
Yeah, your first shot was like,
and they were ranged 3 shots. They were ranged 3 shots with the strike teams.
Your first shot was lackluster. It was a hit in 2 crits. I was like, oh well, he forced 2 saves. It doesn't surge. And Mike rolled 2 blocks, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, and then the snipers, the ones with Pierce, were just like straight whiffing.
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot spend 2 turns trying to kill this thing.
Rebel snipers do that.
Yeah. So anyway, I eventually killed it, but not after I tied up like 3 units for 2 turns, which was more than I could afford.
I think those barks killed way more stuff than ARC troopers ever would have in that particular matchup.
In that particular matchup.
Yes.
Yeah.
They took like 12. I think between 8 to 12 models. I don't know exactly, but they killed basically.
It's probably closer to 8, but yeah.
Like close to 2 core units in a strike team.
I will give you this, Mike. I still don't like barks, but that's a personal preference. I will say this, that if we intend to see situational awareness spam in single eliminations, there might be something to running barks. There might be. If situational awareness is running rampant in single elimination lists, which we won't know for a little while, strictly there to basically counter arcs, right? If you really think about it. Among other things, I'm not saying it's just arcs, but their main concern is to stop chipping from ARC troopers
and other things with critical, which is a lot of things. But
of course,
it is a lot.
But for a clone player going up against situational awareness, and you don't have, like a lot of things that throw critical, other than like the mortar and the DC-15, the regular DC-15 on a phase 1, right? Empire has more units of critical and Rebel have more units of critical. Like there's more critical floating around in other factions. But for clones, arcs are like the bread and butter of most lists. But thinking outside the box with barks, if you're expecting to see situational awareness, might be the way to go. The issue, of course, is, and we talk about this on the podcast many times, you have to be able to win like 6 games straight in single eliminations. Can they do that?
And this is a gamble I took ahead of time, because Kyle definitely could have shown up with a separatist list, and I would have been screwed. There was no guns in this list, really. Dude. Like the barks would have been like, oh, I got 2 droids, like woohoo. like they wouldn't. It wouldn't have been nearly as good. And lightsabers also not super great against separatists, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm throwing 5 dice and it's Pierce 3, but like your unit's not dead still.
And I would have Maul or Dooku or both if I was running separatist lists.
Yeah,
so.
Sadly, we know how Kyle operates, and he had been playing situational awareness Rebel spam most recently, and you would know that. And I know that maybe he didn't have the time to think about it because he's been busy with real life stuff, and we get that wasn't in our factoring. My factoring.
I did not think you were going to play the same list. I was expecting.
I didn't.
I was expecting Kenobi situational, which I thought was going to be a very different game.
That would have been a very different game.
Yeah, that would have been interesting to see, because my main takeaway, which Kyle brought up post game, was I'm never playing this game without force push again.
I said the same thing
to me that night. He was like, I'm so done with not having force push.
Which Kyle and I have said this many times in blogs, on the podcast, in our own Discord. Like, I don't know how many times Kyle and I have said, dude, I hate leaving the house without force push. And this was like the one time like he really, really felt that. I'm sure he's felt it in other games.
I have.
But I would say that the microscope and magnitude of the game due to Invader League, there's a lot of people watching the stream. We pumped it up on the podcast. Like, it was just funny to see because like I knew in his like I'm watching and I'm like, oh my god, Kyle wishes he had like Luke or Obi-Wan so bad right now, or like Dooku, anything with force push. Like he would take like a 50-point Jedi Padawan with 1 health with like force push if he could right now. That I could tell that was like a thought process going through his mind, and he said that after the game.
Yeah, I do think that kind of highlighted crutch is not the right word, but I'm certainly used to. I mean, I nearly always run force user lists. That's kind of my thing. So I'm sort of used to being able to counter other force users just like as a matter of course. And I'm very good at that duel. I clearly need a lot more. People do it, right? Plenty of people run force users and are capable of countering force users. I'm not one of those people, at least not right now. So
I'm legitimately the same way. If I see a force user on the other side and I'm playing something without a force user, which is a very rare occasion, but it does happen, I feel legitimately uncomfortable.
Yep.
And you go into the game with the wrong mindset, basically. And like I've gone into games where like, I can't win this. I don't have a force user. And we're going into a game where it's better for a force user, or like turn 0 winds up better for that force user's list. And I'm just like, oh man, I'm on my back foot. And I'm not really necessarily on my back foot, but my mentality is there because I don't have my own way to counter their force user melee unit, you know?
Yeah, and it's not that it's not. I think that's a little bit of a fallacy. That's sort of a construct because we're so used to just having a force user on the table.
Totally.
Like
totally.
I don't have that muscle memory built up where you can, like, clearly you can run a list without a force user and still be capable of countering them. Oh, I don't personally have that muscle memory built up.
No, I totally like get like flabbergasted because I'm like, how do I deal with this without my own force push? And I kind of get my mind into a pretzel because I'm not used to it. It's my own, it's my personal thing. Like I'm not saying you can't do it without a force user. Plenty of people do it, and it's definitely a strategy. It's just not one that I can deal with personally myself. Like, same with you.
Yeah. I also think that like a little bit of it is like you have that feeling of like you're outside your comfort zone, but then like your opponent has 2 force pushes as opposed to like it's not like they just had 1. Like you can withdraw from 1 and you'll be okay. It's like, oh my, it feels like your opponent is cheating when they have 2 a little bit. Like not that they are, but like, you know, your units are just getting like blown every which way and you can't control their movement at all. I don't know. But I mean, it's an expensive combination, you know. I guess to wrap this out for me, this was a counter pick against Kyle. I would never bring this to Elims. I don't even think this list is good. Just to be clear,
it's trash. You know, I said it. It's trash.
I think that if you are up against a specific meta, you know, I took it to do a certain job. It did it really well. There's no way you're gonna win, you know, 6-7 games in a row with that list. I think, you know, you know, I trash Anakin and Kenobi a lot, but I've played a lot of Anakin Kenobi off the air, and I really want it to be good. It's not, and you know, there's a lot of cool tricksy stuff you can do with it, and when you get like hostage exchange, you're like, oh, gold mine, right? But
yeah, it's not good in the context of having to win 6 to 8 games in a row.
If you ever get outbid, you are pretty much just done. Is the thing. And for listeners at home, I'm not sure that we expressed how much the bid on this list was. It was like 21, 22 points. Like it was not a trivial bid.
Yeah, there certainly are lists that bid more.
Yeah. Droid lists can really afford to bid more, and
yeah, the token.
lot of times they have like tanks and
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a surprise Kyle for one game kind of list.
Yeah,
and it did very well at that very specific purpose.
You know, sometimes when you're playing within your division, so to speak, you gotta like, or within your conference, like sometimes you gotta show up and like, you know, with a different quarterback, you know, and like just change it up, you know, which
throw the backup in there that the other team didn't prepare the routes for, even if he's worse.
You know, the quarterback throws it off as a pitch, runs down the field, and your backup quarterback's like throwing a pass to your actual quarterback. That's the type of situation that this was. This was trick play time, not like, you know, solid competitive Legion type.
It certainly made for an entertaining game. I'm sure that everybody that watched enjoyed themselves. It was fun for me, even though I was stuck on the loading screen for most of it. But yeah, it's funny. It struck me sort of in the middle of that game about how thematic that it would have been more thematic if I was actually playing CIS, although it wouldn't have worked nearly as well. But like Anakin specifically in the show Clone Wars, if you've seen that, always kind of beats the tactical droids by just doing something outrageous and unexpected that would never work twice. because you know, that's like how you beat an AI machine, right? So it struck me how thematic that was, that not only did you do essentially that, but you used Anakin in the process. Props, golf clap, props for that.
I took a lot of crap in chat because, you know, I've been like, man, Barks are terrible. You know, Kenobi's not very good. Anakin's trash. And I played all three of those units.
I do think that something that it did highlight for me is maybe those units are not as bad as we thought. I don't know if I would use them all at the same time.
I'm not sure I would eat all the candy, Mike.
Yeah. But like Naked Barks, you know, for something with 5 health, permanent cover, a red save, and that is really fast, you're basically paying a strike team price for that. Maybe a little bit more, 60 points. You know, that's an arc, basically. So, you know, for something that makes you not terrible at mobility objectives like bombing run and breakthrough, and that you can pick off other strike teams and white save units with, not terrible. You know, you could definitely do worse.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that like we haven't super reevaluated that particular unit since the point changes, right? Like, and it's a pretty substantial difference in it not being 75 base or whatever it was before, you know.
And the rules changes.
And to the Anakin, you know, I'm not gonna say I am gonna say Anakin is trash. I still think Anakin is really bad. I think I was able to mitigate a lot of the badness because, like, I could hold Kenobi and just force push whatever you withdrew from Anakin back into melee with him. So even if he was suppressed, like, you weren't gonna get to really shoot him, right? And I think, I don't know.
The map was really good for them.
There was a lot of things that went into that. I'm not saying Anakin is unplayable. Certainly, Invader League has demonstrated thus far that Anakin is playable. I don't think he's top tier. I don't think he's even probably A or B tier. He's probably like, you know, a C tier list, which is fine. But I wouldn't expect you to take down a tournament with Anakin. You know,
right?
You know, yeah.
And if it's worth highlighting that if I had been able to pull off that withdrawal, like even if I didn't kill Anakin in one turn, which was reasonably possible, given the circumstances there, I would have just played the flaw card on the next turn. Like,
right. I would have been screwed. Like, had you figured out the timing and had I not had you on the back foot, like even in the perfect circumstances, I could have been really screwed. And you know, I mean, just like so that people understand how perfectly it went. Like Kenobi and Anakin did not take a wound the entire game. Like that's how perfectly it went. And they were like the only pieces in my army that could like really do damage. You know, like
Yeah, I killed other stuff, but I was just never able to shoot them, basically.
Right. It was just like they were in melee, and when you could like melee them, they had like 4 dodge tokens to share between the two of them, you know. And it was like, okay, I guess this sucks, you know. So I don't know. I'm not sure that specific game was a real good showcase of why Anakin is playable. You know, I don't know. I want him to be good. I think his command cards don't really do anything. I think that like I will say that I think his flaw is less of a problem than we originally discussed. If we're gonna revisit the Anakin conversation, my issue with it is he's got no Son of Skywalker, he's got no Return of the Jedi, he's got no my ally of the Force. Like all of his things give him keywords, which is great, but you can like just pay an extra 10 points to like start the game with those keywords with Kenobi. Like, and
speaking of that, did you bring push or did you bring Anakin's 2-pip?
So Anakin was push, saber throw, seize the initiative, endurance.
Push the command card.
No, the command card.
I brought push. I left Anakin's.
I think leaving the 2-pip is a solid strategy to try and mitigate the flaw card certain lists.
I think so too. I think in that one specifically, like,
yeah,
it was important. However, I'm not sure if I were to like run it back. I think I might have taken Anakin's 2-pip because I think I could have probably gotten away with not having an order on Kenobi for a turn. In those circumstances.
Yeah. See, my reason for asking is because it's not about keeping an order on Kenobi. It's about the detriment that you put yourself on the flaw. Like, because if I'm not mistaken, the 2-pip forces you to attack something, right?
Yeah. So that was one of the main reason I didn't. That was the other main reason I didn't bring it, is that I think it makes you. I think it makes you attack every turn, or
and I don't like that. Like, I think going first with Anakin is mitigatable because he has Exemplar. So if he goes first and early, you can mitigate the 3-pip, you can mitigate the 1-pip. And you can have pass tokens and do some stuff. But the 2-pip, if you don't have anything to attack, and this is probably why if we were to reevaluate, which we're not doing on this podcast right now, but it really makes probably saber throw the thing you bring just to kind of give yourself an out at range 2 if you really need it. But personally, when building an Anakin list, if I were to play him, I would probably leave the 2-pip at home. But that's why I was mainly asking. I just don't like the drawback of it. That's all.
I think the thing about it though is that like I think the reason that I was able to leave the 2-pip at home was because I had a refreshable force push every turn. Like right. I think that if I didn't have Kenobi, I would have really wanted that. You know.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
So like. I think part of the reason that it was okay was because like Anakin was the like extra force push that like if I really needed it, I could just be like recover force push. And I will say saber throw is real good that game. A saber throw is a little bit of a game changer with jump and relentless. Like Vader is relentless, saber throw thing is kind of middling, but man, Anakin is real fast and he's just like saber you in the face, jump away, you know. And
especially when you have surge tokens, and I'm not saying that's the best way to use surge tokens, but at least they're there if you need it, and you're not bringing the 2-pip, right? Like, and this is in the context of not bringing the 2-pip, which gives them surge crit, correct?
Because
that's the thing with Vader. Sometimes you throw that lightsaber and you throw some surges and you're like, wow, this feels terrible.
Surges make a big difference on saber throws. That's why Luke's saber throw is so good, even though he doesn't have relentless, because it's 4 dice with surge crit.
Right.
Jedi Luke's.
Yeah.
You would not take it on Commander Luke.
Yeah. Operative Luke is a beast. Yeah. More people should play him. But I guess that's all to say that, you know, I think push was a defensible choice in that list.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, you know, if you're playing a traditional Anakin list, you probably should bring that 2-pip. Master of the Force is important.
Yeah,
it is. Yep.
But again, you know, why not just bring Kenobi so that you can have a turn where you get 10 dodge tokens and then have a turn where you get a standby token on your Force user? I don't know. Like those effects are irreplaceable and so powerful that like I don't know. Like you don't get to replace those effects in
Sounds like you were
Anakin
really
list,
close to saying that Obi-Wan is good, but that's fine.
I mean, you know, I'm saying of the two of them, I think if you're going to include one in your list, you should take Kenobi. I think that there's some cool stuff with Anakin you can do, but 160 point standby battery is really expensive, and that's the unique thing he can do. And unfortunately,
that and saber throw.
Yeah, I mean saber throw is cool.
Those are the two things basically.
Yeah.
A good saber throw and exemplar. That's basically it.
The issue that I have with that is that like the saber throw thing is good, no doubt, but it's not like super. It's not like a game breaking ability, and the standby sharing thing is like cool, but you want to be generally sharing your standby tokens to the unit you paid the most for traditionally. And I'm not saying that you can't do it other ways, but like, I don't know, if Anakin's in your list, he's probably the most expensive thing there, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, I was impressed with the ingenuity. Congrats. Are you 3-0 or 4-0 at this point in our group?
I'm 3-0 as of this afternoon. I played my third game today.
Okay.
Against Lord Dorn, which was a fun game. I kicked back to my bread and butter Rexstar, which does not have Force Push in it, my friends.
I would have much rather you had played that one.
Anyway, I know you would have. There was no way. I shouldn't say there was no way I was bringing that, but because I had actually, when I was waffling, I was like, you know what? I played like 30 games of like Rexstar, Arcstar shenanigans last season. It's still really good. Maybe I should just play that.
You also had me telling you to stick it up his SAS, and you really needed to prove that point for me. Now you did in a different way though.
Yeah. I just made the situational not matter,
Yeah, I think that was like honestly the least consequential thing that listed. But anyway,
yeah,
I got to win my next two games.
You do. I put you in an
Pressure's
awkward position.
on.
Pressure's a little bit,
Kyle.
That was my first round robin loss in the history of Invader League.
You
know that?
I did not. I mean, so I know David said that you've only lost in Invader League, I think 4 times. I think that
three previous to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you made 4.
So I, you've got like some stupid win percentage. I think it's like 90% of your games in Invader League or something.
Now it is, yeah.
It
was more.
Sure. Like, who's more than that, man?
No. So we'll see. It's I honestly though, like I never take round robin for granted. We'll see. Good luck to you, sir. Good luck to everyone else in our group.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting finish. There's definitely a few people still in it, so.
Yeah, because Zodiac actually, if I lose one game, then I think Zodiac advances.
Yeah, I think you can both be 3-2
because he's got more victory points from his other 2 games.
Yeah,
so.
and
Mike and I were talking about this precast, Kyle, before you joined us.
Yeah.
I was like, Kyle unintentionally always finds himself with low VPs because he always will find a way to find the most defendable game possible and play to his style, which is not a fault. It's the system, right? The system's a little bit different than we're used to, right? Well, actually, going forward, it won't be like if VPs will matter, at real life tournaments when
we've had this conversation already. But yes,
yeah.
I don't score a lot of VPs. I win by as little as necessary generally. So
he doesn't like to take 2 lightsabers. Just get in there,
Yeah, exactly. Anyway. Let's move on to the topic that we kicked from last week, which let's do this in our tactics section.
It's time for Legion 101. Class is in session.
So we are going to, I don't know if we're going to hit like every single one because this would be a lot of episodes, but we're going to start walking through kind of a deep dive of each slot of each faction, if that makes sense. So this week we're going to do Rebel Core, and we're basically going to talk about the Rebel Core units, what the competitive loadouts for them look like, and how you would go about using them in a game. So those core units, there are 3 of them. We have Rubble Troopers, of course, the mainstay. Oh, I'm sorry. The MK2 is
yeah.
Yeah, it's also a separate unit. I consider it basically part of vets.
If we really want to just take a shot at me, you could be like, yeah, well, there's only 3 in Zach's world because he thinks Mark IIs don't exist.
Oh, I think I can't stand them. But anyway, so you got Rubble Troopers, you got Fleet Troopers, and then you have vets, and then you have Mark IIs, which is really like half of the unit.
You know what?
It's half of an activation.
Yeah.
I've been taking some like stray bullets in the Discord about my hatred of emplacement units.
All right, hang on.
I want people to hone in on Kyle and his hatred of Mark IIs. So next time I get hit with a stray
I don't
bullet,
hate emplacements, just Mark IIs.
All right, well, next time I get tagged about a Mark II, I am tagging you because now we are cohorts and you are now being drawn into the fire.
So let's do this in a slightly organized way. We might as well start with vets and Mark IIs because we're on this topic. But let's kind of hit this unit by unit. So, Rebel vets. Do you ever run them naked, or are you always taking the heavy, the CM93/-0?
I think now, with the gun being range 4, that you have to bring the CM091. Is that what CM091? I think you bring the heavy weapon if you're bringing vets. Just because that gun is actually really good at range 4. My takeaway on vets is that I feel like vets want to be in a core central list, and that's very hard to do with rebels and have it feel effective, if that makes sense. And I've had this conversation with you, Kyle, about your captain core, which we'll get to when we talk about Rebel Troopers. But my issue with Rebel core is that you don't want your points to be inflated because it always feels like you're trading down and you're going to end up being traded up by your opponent because your core costs too much. And I just have that feeling that those vets do that to you because, 1, they're not necessarily cheap, and 2, in order for the list to work, you're going to probably need to bring Mark IIs, and 3, you probably need the list to revolve around your Rebel core. And I think that if you're having a list revolve around your Rebel core, you're on your back foot because pretty much every other faction has better core. That's just my plain takeaway. I think most other factions have better core. Or let's put it this way. The best units in the Rebel faction aren't revolving around the core. And like they're not meant to
disagree.
Hand out. Oh man, I don't know. This is why I don't like
2
vets.
weeks ago, I would have agreed with you.
I also disagree.
Ooh, all right. Well, bring it on. Here we go. Disagreement.
So I have a couple, I guess, points that I want to make here. First, I think if you're taking vets, you're always taking the gun. The reason for that is that if you're not taking the gun, you're taking the vets and Mark II for activation padding. And I'm pretty sure last time I checked the math, vets and a Mark II are the same price as 2 naked Rebel Troopers, and
it's more.
It might be more. I forget. Regardless, I'm pretty sure
6 points more.
Yeah, like 2 naked Rebel Troopers is just like better if you're just trying to activation pad. So I think if you're taking vets, you're always taking the gun, like just hands down. And then so I don't know. So first of all, I think Rebel Core is actually pretty good right now. I don't love the vets because I don't think they super fit into that model. I think if they had nimble, they might it would warrant the extra points you play for them. I don't think that like the Rebel vet with the gun is like better than the DLT.
Totally.
Basically what you're paying for is the Mark II. So I think the only reason you're taking the vet with the gun is because for whatever reason you want to take the Mark II. I'm not sure what that reason is, to be clear.
I'm glad we're unified in our dislike of Mark IIs.
I mean, I don't I actually kind of think that like with the +1 wound, it's like fine-ish, but like I think there are just better things you could be doing. And generally, I also am not a big emplacement fan. They're just like really limited. I don't know. They're really easy to kill with snipers. They like extra die to hunter. They're just like they have a lot of like weird niche flaws to them. It's the same reason I don't like mortars. So yeah, that's my take on the vets. I think particularly with the vigilance meta we are entering into, vets are not particularly like it's hard to beat a rebel core unit with nimble when you have vigilance in your list. Like I think that's really difficult, and the vets like just they don't bring enough over that.
Yeah, and I feel like I need to clarify what I meant by other factions having better core is when your list revolves around core. I'm not
Watch
saying
out,
that the
Zach's
rebel
backpedaling, everybody.
No,
He's
no.
backpedaling.
No.
I disagree with that too, but this is not a hot take section. So
I'm just saying that I don't think that if you're
when
building
we talk
a rebel
about
list,
Empire Core, we can have this conversation.
yeah, but at some point you're gonna have to get into a knife fight with Empire Core, and they're probably gonna beat Rebel Core. That's my point. If you're building a rebel list straight up around their core units, I think you've made a mistake. Is what I'm really getting at. That's
Well,
what I
let's
think.
get to Rebel Troopers before we get into meat and potatoes. This conversation.
Hang on, let me weigh in on vets.
Yeah, he's gotta weigh in.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like let's wait to have that specific conversation.
Yeah. So for me, it's just a rebel vet with the heavy CM dash 093 slash whatever it's called. I can never remember the order
It
of
goes
the
to show you
punctuation.
how much to show you how much we don't like vets when we don't know.
It's actually, I think it's my favorite heavy weapon name because Star Wars is almost like all the heavy weapon names are like an almost self-aware, self-mockery string of alphanumeric characters in no particular order. And the veteran one is just the most ridiculous one to me because it's got like multiple slashes and dashes in it. It's got multiple numbers in it that are not next to each other. I love it. I love everything about it, even though I can never remember which one it is. So anyway, yeah, it's that combination plus the Mark II is 112 points. A DLT Rebel Trooper unit plus a naked Rebel Trooper unit is 106, which is cheaper. And you get a naked Rebel Trooper unit instead of a Mark II, which if you're padding your activation, it's the same number of wounds technically, but they can use cohesion for cover. Emplacements are really easy to catch out of cover because they only have one model. They can move and shoot. Like clearly they don't have critical, but
It's kind of whatever. The thing about it is that like if you're padding for activations, like the importance of keeping those activations alive is so important.
Yeah.
And like being able
just always
to
end up
hear a dude somewhere that like your opponent literally can't get to is like it I don't know. It's fundamental to being able to make that.
It is. Whenever I run Mark IIs, they take a couple of wounds from a sniper the first time they get shot, and then I'm like, I guess I just have to hide this thing for the rest of this game and pass with it. And that's what always happens with a Mark II. So when I play them, maybe I suck at Mark IIs.
No, I think you're
listeners,
right,
please tell me that I suck at Mark IIs.
There are issues. They have to be at range 3 to be effective, so you have to put them in a position.
And they can't move shoot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that, as far as the vets go, like, if you're gonna play vets for a reason other than, hey, I want to play, like, a themed list that looks cool, like, if you're playing them because you want them to be intrinsically mechanical and important to your list, you're playing them to do some weird thing where you're, like, putting recon intel on your vets and then, like, using that scout move to, like, set up your Mark II in like a really weird forward position so that you can like fire support some like alpha strike on turn 1 where you hit your opponent in their deployment zone before they move. Like that's the sort of shenanigans that like I think reason you need to include a vet for mechanical reasons in your list.
Yeah, like a gimmick almost. I mean,
I think we talked about it like a long time ago. There was like a triple coordinated bombardment fire support thing going around where you cohered all your Mark IIs forward, you like bombarded with Leia and then like fire supported the bombardment shots or whatever, which was kind of cool and interesting You know,
If you don't delete something, you're in trouble.
right, and that's the thing. You're like down 4 activations at the beginning of the game if you don't kill something. So, anyways, that's a long-winded way of saying I think that's really the only reason to bring a vet, unless you're being like, hey, I want to play Hoth Rebels, which is fine if that's what you want to do.
And I've seen some of the double layer speeder lists that take like 3 vets and 3 MK2s. I think it's fine in that context. But if you're just like, I want a Rebel core unit with critical, just take a Rubble Trooper DLT. You know, like that's I'm partial to DLTs. I've always been. I I bought 5 upgrade packs for back when before Worlds was canceled. That was a long time ago now. I was on the DLT train early.
So let me get this straight. You've not only bought 5 upgrade packs for the Rebels, you've bought 5 upgrade packs for the Separatists now too, right?
Specialist packs. There's a difference.
I'm sorry. I think they're the same price.
Yeah. Yes, that's accurate. Anyway, we're not talking about that today.
We're not talking about beer.
I was a normal person and was asking people in my area if they had extra Rebel DLTs I could borrow for Worlds. You can buy 5.
Yeah, that would have been smarter. Anyway, I still have one unopened. I could probably sell it or something. Anyway, so Rubble Troopers. Let's talk about Rubble Troopers. So I think there's actually basically, I don't want to say 4, but there's at least 3 different good ways to run Rubble Troopers. Naked for activation padding, with a DLT, and I think the Z6 is also fine now that it's 20 points.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think just the shotgun is off the table, the ion gun off the table. That both of them are just not, again, unless you're building for theme, which, okay, whatever. Like those things they're not good. The
shotgun being range 2 is it's got a strong dice pool, so I understand why it's range 2. Like the dice pool is actually pretty solid when you sit down.
It's a good dice pool. But yeah. Rebel Troopers are not an assault unit, and that's an assault weapon.
Well, not only that, but if you're going to take a unit that like operates at range 2, that's a core unit, it's the next one we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
Yeah, you know? Just take fleets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which sucks because the Ithorian, I believe, is the shotgun model.
Oh yeah, he's so cool looking,
and he's a great looking model. I mean, of course, you can model him with a regular gun, but yeah, I mean. I think Z6 is when. All right, I have a strong stance on this one. I think that naked Rebel Troopers, in the sense that of what they used to be, which was spammable, are not in a good spot right now. I don't think spamming naked Rebel Troopers is still a thing because Droid List exists, and that's why I think a Z6 is. That's why I think the Z6 should come back around in the meta, because. One, you're going to end up with like a points jam where you can't buy enough DLTs in certain lists, and you're just throwing a Z6 in there, and you're giving yourself some extra dice to deal with extra bodies that you're going to come across. Ideally, I think competitively, you want to bring as many DLTs as you can fit, if I'm being honest.
If you're running a list where you want Rebel Trooper heavies, because there are lists where you're focusing on something else and you just want to take like your 3 minimum core.
There's like triple Wookiee, like Tauntaun list that probably want naked Rebel Troopers. I don't know if it's enough. I haven't seen it enough to see to really make that statement. Me personally, I play against a lot of droids. I want heavy weapons, and that's why I probably will bring the DLT quite often, because the Rebel DLT is like fantastic. I've said this since the release. I will continue to say it. I love the Rebel DLT. It's so reliable. Even the range 4 pot shots just feel good. It's something like Rebels didn't have for like the longest time, so maybe that's why I was so big on it at first. But now even more so, because if you enter range 3, that dice pool is like phenomenal. There could be a conversation to be had of whether Kyle's Captain SA thing is real, or my compromise, which I've talked about in the Rebel chat part of the Legion Discord, is that you don't bring the Captain and an SA, but you bring an extra body, which is a little bit cheaper, and you're getting the same offensive output to kind of back up the statements that Mike and I make about SA kind of being useless in certain situations. So yeah, I don't know. Rebel Troopers still really good. Rebel Core is still really good, as opposed to, I understand that what I said might be taken out of context. I just don't think building around Rebel Core is what you want. I think you're like Kyle's list. Yes, Kyle's list is core centric, but he's got 3 heroes in it. He's still got Cassie and K2 and Chewbacca. He's still got 3 snipers in it. Like, the list might be core beefy, but it doesn't revolve around that core no matter which way you cut it. It might look like it does, but it doesn't. And that's how I feel about it, right? Rebel Core is still really good. DLT is just really good. I love my clones, but I'm not gonna lie, watching these Rebel lists get thrown out there, I've been dying to play a Rebel DLT like Op Luke Cassian list because it just feels good. And that feels good to say, because there was a dark time where Rebel heavy weapons were basically on the shelf. And that was a legit statement. Like, they literally had to collect dust on the shelf or you would get eaten alive. So I'm kind of happy to see that it's kind of shifted where heavy weapons are on Rebel units again.
Yeah. And just to make the case real quick for the captain, I like the extra body. I like where you're going with that. It's relatively cheap now. That is a very strong dice pool at range 3 when you throw that extra dude on there. The captain's it
hits better than Shores, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
It does.
Like, yeah.
Yep. The captain is only a little bit more expensive. For me, the situational awareness thing is good, but it's not just that you're getting. You're also getting the ignore suppression for a turn. Sorry, it cannot be suppressed for a turn, which is not quite the same thing because they can still panic.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, I really like the captain for that reason. I have been using them. Clearly, I've used them twice for round robin, once ineffectively and once very effectively, and then plenty in practice games too. And I've been consistently impressed just with the captain version, both because they hit harder. Between vigilance and situational awareness, you bounce a lot of hits that would otherwise be eating those white saves alive, including from ARC Troopers. But there's a lot of things with critical in this game. I think the fact that you intentionally did not bring ARC Troopers because you assumed I was going to be bringing situational awareness is testament to the fact that it's good.
Well, so not to go back to that point, but I thought you were bringing situational awareness clones, which is significantly a different beast.
Sure.
Rexstar, I think, would have eaten those rebels alive to some extent. I don't know. Wiping a Rebel Trooper squad basically with a Z6 shot is still like in the cards, you know.
Oh, no question. It's bad against large dice pools, which is specifically what Rexstar, you backload a Z6 shot with like 10 aims. It's not good in those situations.
No.
But,
I will say I was markedly surprised at just like how much more durable those units seem to be. Like there was one core unit that like I meleeed it with Anakin like twice and it still didn't die. Which like in the situation I was in, I was okay with, right? Because like I wanted Anakin to be in melee, and it like I wasn't really pressed for time, so it wasn't a huge deal. But had I been pressed for time, it would have been a big deal. Like you had 2-3 dodge tokens on this stupid Rebel Core unit and you were just recycling it every turn, But yeah, I mean, I think in that respect, I think vigilance to me is like the
clearly
there, right? Like,
yeah.
And I do think that like the bigger conversation as far as Rebel Troopers go specifically is like, I don't think it's a very close competition in the Rebel Core slot anymore because of vigilance, right? Like it's just, we haven't talked about Fleet Troopers yet. We will, but, vigilance, the vigilance and nimble combo, regardless of if you're using the situational awareness thing, I think is just really good, you know, like even if you just have 4 units with Z6s with no extra dudes, you know, and you just like have a dude with vigilance in your list, whether it be Leia or a generic or whatever, Jin or something, you know, it's just, there's just, vigilance is 5 points. It's a lot of value for 5 points. And and I think the other thing with vigilance is that like if you don't need it on your Rubble Troopers, you just like kind of slide it somewhere else, right? You're like, oh, this turn I need it on Cassian because I want him to hold his dodge that he got from like Last Stand or whatever. You know, but you know, I think you guys are right in the DLT is like the weapon. I think Z6 are in the conversation because they were getting hedged out by standby sharing. Like standby sharing made Rebel Trooper range 3 just like that was the main reason you couldn't do it. There's a conversation about like most other things have more firepower at range 3, like shore troopers like just annihilate Rebel Troopers a lot of the time. You know, Z6s with 6 aim tokens also, you know, make it difficult. But at least now you can like pull your punch before you die. And the vigilance nimble thing makes taking that punch a little bit more tolerable, or at least costly to your opponent to do it.
Right, and the Rebel Trooper Z6 is a good 30 points cheaper than both of those units that you just mentioned. Right. So,
yeah. I mean, my advice would be that if you're not going for the situational awareness, like Captain build that Kyle was talking about with the DLT, keep your Rebel Troopers as lean as you can, right? Like, and I mentioned the extra body. That's just kind of to spite Kyle. I don't know if putting an extra body on a DLT is what I would normally do. It was just part of the conversation of the situational awareness. It's actually not terrible, mind you. I do think that there is a conversation to be had that maybe the extra body on a DLT is worth the extra firepower if that's what the list is going for. But for the most part, I'm going Rebel Trooper, heavy weapon, done. That, I mean, personally, that's me.
I think that's fair. I also think like with the caveat that like put vigilance in your list, like totally. You know, like it's just rebels should gravitate to command slots right now.
Let's put it this way: if you have 4 to 5 Rebel Troopers in your list, right? Just add an extra point to that heavy weapon in your head because that's the 5 points for vigilance, right? Like, essentially.
Assuming you've already got somebody with a command slot. Just
right, of course.
Which is pretty common, but I do think that like traditionally we have not seen Rebel lists specifically take command slotted units because like they've got no use for aggressive tactics. You know, we used to see like Leia take improvised orders, but that was like she was really already there and we were putting improvised orders into that slot because there was really nothing else to spend the points on and it was okay, right? And
Lando Calrissian.
Don't do that again. That like hurt my ears. And then strict orders for Tauntaun builds, basically. But this is like
totally.
This is like vigilance is like the first upgrade where you, as a Rebel player, you're actually like, wow, I need to make sure I take somebody with a command slot so I can take this.
Right, it's like you're excited, right? You're like, ooh, Rex with aggressive tactics. This is like Leia with vigilance, you know, this feels good, right? And I think that that's been missing a little bit from like the Rebel arsenal, you know, you're like Veers with electro binoculars. This is aim tokens, woohoo, you know.
I remember when I couldn't leave my house without Leia and like, I can't even think of the card. When you throw the improvised orders. Like I used to always be like, oh, because I would always play Luke and Leia. I'm like, I need Leia for the command slot for improvised orders. And, you know, that's basically where we're at.
Yep. Yeah, except vigilance is way better than improvised orders ever was.
Yeah, way better.
But yeah. So yeah, if you're centering, not even centering a build around Rebel Troopers, if you are using a Rebel list and you have Rebel Troopers in it that are not naked, you should find a way to fit vigilance in there. If you're giving Rebel Troopers heavy weapons, figure out a way to get vigilance in there. Yeah. You know, the generic commander is only 45 points. 5 points makes him 50. It's perfectly decent handout dodge token, 50-point activation to enable vigilance.
He feels just as
So-
good as a clone commander. It's fine.
Okay.
Look, that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. We're not having that conversation today.
I want to toss a dart. Come on.
But anyway, so let's hit fleets real quick. Little known factoid of the day. Against red save units, fleet troopers with the shotgun have the most efficient attack in the game.
They got to get there, Kyle. They got to.
I know.
am
I wanted to lead with a positive because I know
sick.
the rest of this conversation is going to be.
I'm so sick of this narrative. I feel like I've been reading that statement for like the entire time that I have owned Star Wars Legion. It is a freaking lie. I don't care. I mean, okay,
it's not a lie.
It's not a lie. It's not a lie.
It's mathematically accurate. In practice, it is not
correct
because they never get there.
It is factual, but I'm here to tell you that the math and the facts are a lie because in this game, range 2 is really freaking hard to get to safely. And you will die on the way, and you will not get those mathematically correct stats because your fleet troopers are dead. Fleet troopers still sink.
A couple questions. First, is it really mathematically better than a full ARC squad with a name token? Like assuming the ARC squad has Pierce.
Well, I think it's by points. It's a point
on a per
On a
point
per
basis.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean by efficient.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's definitely more efficient then. Never mind. Cool. I have a lot of feelings here. They're not quite as vicious as Zach's. I actually think fleet troopers are defensible.
Okay, continue.
I think so. I think I said this, maybe not a couple months ago, or maybe even a couple weeks ago. I think like if you're taking naked rebel units, like take naked rebel fleet troopers. They are 40 points, and they're really good. They're like reasonable. Like yes, you have to get to range 2, but like rebel troopers are not very good at shooting at range 3 anyways. So it's kind of like whatever. And I mean, if you get a full unit of naked fleets into range 2, even without the shotgun, it's still 8 white dice surge to hit. I mean, like that's not nothing. What off the top of my head, 3 times 8, 24? You're averaging 3 hits.
Have you played Naked Pathfinders?
I mean, these are half the cost of Naked Pathfinders.
Well, I'm just saying because Naked Pathfinders, when you throw those 8 dice, it's still a slot machine.
There's no
doubt. Slot machine.
I'm saying that if you were required to take core units and you're taking naked ones, I think fleet troopers are pretty defensible. I also think that like this is clearly like a not a now thing, but if they ever got a specialist pack, I think they could like if it's anything like the stuff that we've seen, I think they could do some interesting and cool stuff with it, like the standby thing. Like if you could put a training slot on them to like get like put Overwatch on them, I think they could be defensible. Like if you could like actually take a range 3 standby on them, clearly they can't shoot to range 3, but if they like could move out of the way, I think it would be fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, ready feels like a keyword that should be good, but it's terrible in most cases, right? If we were to see like a specialist or like a weapon pack, what I would like to see would be like almost like a B2 Ha weapon that you can shoot at range 3 that has blast that could like impact. Right? Is that the one that has blast?
Do you mean like the MPL Barrage?
No, absolutely not. Because does that have blast?
Yes.
Does it? No.
Does it?
Yes,
really?
it does.
The MPL.
It has blast and it has impact too. It is the same as the HA, except it doesn't have cycle and its dice are black instead of red.
We're talking about the Rebel Ion.
It has blast.
No. The Fleet Trooper weapon upgrade that everybody forgets exists.
Oh no, I remember it existed.
But
it has blast?
Yes. Fleet Troopers have a weapon with blast.
Lied. All right, I lied because it has a weapon that has that profile, and that's not good. It should be said that tapping a weapon without cycle is not as good as cycle, right?
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, it doesn't. So
wow, I didn't know that it had blast.
Yeah. All right.
Well, never mind.
Let's talk about it real quick.
And then we'll talk about the shotgun.
It does have blast. They have it is the MPL-B, which stands for barrage, because
Was it
apparently
two black and a white then?
Yeah, it's bad. It's actually one black
Oh,
and two white.
oh,
It does not have cycle, and but it does have blast and impact too. So in that respect, at least, it's the same as the HA. It is only 22 points, but the shotgun is 23 points. So,
I'd rather take my chances in range 2.
well, and the shotgun has Pierce and 2 red dice. So better dice, Pierce.
And what's the B2 weapon?
2 red and a white.
Oh my god, what a difference!
Yeah.
The B2s are 90. Well, not that's if you take the T series. They're like 70 something points, so they're
I mean,
they're more.
B2s are without the personnel stuff right now. Super efficient. Not enough people are playing them.
I agree.
Yeah. I wasn't even trying to make the comparison. I was just
Yeah.
thinking of a weapon that could possibly help them, like
Yeah,
blast.
no,
weapon
it's
with
just
decent
funny.
dice.
You're like, man, I wish they had a weapon like the HA.
I didn't know it had blast. That's how little
Yeah.
I've looked at that card.
Yeah,
Two
so
white and a black at 22 and blast is bad. So no,
it's
the shotgun is
the
the only
dice.
way to
The
go.
dice are bad, and the
You're
exhaust
bringing a
is
weapon.
bad. Yeah, take the shotgun if you're bringing something.
I do agree that, Mike, if you are bringing naked Rebel Troopers, there's a case to be made for Fleet Troopers. In the context of Fleet Troopers in the way that most people want to bring them, they're terrible. Is still, I think. But
I mean, like, don't bring them as your linebacker unit, right? Which is like what we were doing originally. Like when fleets were seen play on the table, like they were the rebel linebacker unit because like we didn't have Wookiees yet, and like snipers were important, and I don't know. There,
my issue with fleets is this: they step onto a table and they have a literal target on their back. That your opponent focus fires them because of the potential that they have.
I don't think that's true. I think
My
that's
fleets have been targeted so many times, and this is I haven't played fleets in a while, mind you. So
I think that's a little bit of a fallacy in that like they feel like they get targeted because like on the way to range 2 they get shot, right? Like it's not hard to like shoot them. It
doesn't take very many shots.
Yeah, like they're rebel troopers without nimble and vigilance and all that shenanigans.
They need a flak jacket. That's what they need, like a flak jacket upgrade that gives them red dice or something. Like
honestly, it's the courage one more than anything else.
Courage one's pretty.
Yeah,
like,
that's
you
fair.
Suppress them. It's just like,
yeah.
I'm in a really crappy position.
If you want to use the shotgun version, I would strongly consider throwing an officer on there, both
That's
for
how I
the
used
extra
to run
body and for the courage too.
Well, and that's a place where like, if they had access to a captain, it would be way better, right? Like captain with a training upgrade, like I get to make myself immune to suppression outside of panicking and like take offensive push. Like that seems.
Yeah, talk about a unit that would like offensive push, like
right,
with an extra body and suppression mitigation for sure.
And you know what? As we're talking about fleets, it occurs to me that we sort of inadvertently buried the lead because we said we were going to talk about something and then we didn't. So let's round out this core discussion, but we still need to talk about the AA5 and the LAT LE. We never talked about them. Other than that they existed.
We kind of like got on Anakin Kenobi bark
we did
discussion.
So let's round out this core discussion real quick because we've talked about how to build them, but we haven't really talked about how to use them. You guys got any like super quick hits on how to use Rebel Core?
I say
like
this
when they're on the table.
I say this all the time. When you're building a list and you put a bunch of guns in it, you say to yourself, gun line. Don't play it like a gun line. Because if you're playing against another gun line, you will most likely lose that battle. You still need to play the Rebel way, which is picking your spots and being smart with your decision making. Don't be afraid to take those range 4 pot shots and move and just stay mobile. But if you're trying to enter a range 3 gunfight within the list that also has range 3 guns, you're probably in for a world of hurt. I know there are situations where you kind of have to do that sometimes. But build the list out and don't think straight gunline. Like think the Rebel way, which is kind of be cagey.
Yeah, I mean, Like a lot of other gun lines will like aim shoot. Rebels should be move shooting or shoot moving almost always. It's really enticing, I think, to take an aim token, but like they do still melt in the breeze even with dodge tokens and vigilance and all that. So I at the end of the day, they're there to support your heroes because that's what rebels are about most of the time, unless you're like taunting it up or whatever. So I agree.
There are times when you can aim shoot, like if you can assess that you're basically safe from return fire in whatever location you are. I think dodge shooting is almost... I can't remember the last time I dodge shot with a Rubble Trooper unit.
Trap.
Because if you're dodging, that means you expect them to get shot, and then you should just be shooting and then moving away from the shot, so you don't get shot at all. So yeah, aim shoot I find myself doing more than dodge shooting, but mostly, like you said, I find myself doing moving and shooting, or shooting and then moving.
Yeah, and I always think like tactically, like, and this is like a real quick thing, tactically is if you have the DLT and you want to take a pot shot at something that shoots at range 3 only, get yourself exactly to 4 and they can't move shoot you. And that's like a big thing for the Rebel DLT, in my opinion.
Yep, super overlooked little tactical nuance of Legion, but the speed 2 movement tool is exactly 5 inches, and a trooper base is 25 millimeters, which is very slightly less than 1 inch when you account for the bevel on the base, which means that a speed 2 move plus a trooper base is very slightly less than range 1, which is 6 inches. So that means, like, if you ever see people at a table and they're saying, like, I'm going to move to exactly range whatever, usually the purpose of that is to establish that, if the opponent then moved from that spot directly towards the unit that shot them, they would be unable to close the next range band. So, that exactly range whatever language is very important in that context. That goes well beyond DLTs, but it's definitely important for DLTs.
Yeah, of course.
All right, let's talk. So we didn't get, I did not watch the stream, but did we get any like actual information about the AA5 or the LAT LE?
Just models and bases, basically.
Right. So we know what the bases look like, which is important. The I believe the AA5 is on a occupier base, if I am recalling correctly, and I believe the LAT was on a AAT base.
Yeah, ironically,
I don't know. It might have been a little smaller than that. It might have. It was tough to tell.
When I saw it, I thought it was smaller. Then someone mentioned that someone mentioned they have the side notches.
I think
so.
Yeah. I think it did have the side notches. Now that I'm thinking
which
about
doesn't necessarily mean it's the same size, but
it could be a new base.
Speculation leads you to believe that it's the same as an AAT.
That thing would be blazing fast. Maybe it's speed 1. I don't know, but it's basically a helicopter. So
it is
shock
basically
me
a helicopter. So it makes sense that it might be able to like strafe, right? If it's a helicopter, so the side notches make sense. Maybe they took like the airspeeder base and just cut notches in the side.
That's what I said it was. I thought it was an airspeeder base. That's what it looked like to me. The side notches threw a wrench into things.
Yeah. It's tough to tell without like something we know in the picture with it. So there's no statistical data that we have to like take from other than both of these items, like they showed us the interiors, they're clearly transports, which I think is important, and I think maybe more importantly, both of them at least look like they might be transports for more than one model, right? Like maybe these are squad transports, like they're not like the land speeder where you get in the passenger seat and like that's all you got. Like the the AA5, like the interior will look like a Rhino, right?
It legitimately looks like a bus.
You're being charitable. Yeah. Zach says bus. I would have said like Winnebago.
That's
like an RV.
Yeah.
But clearly you can fit more than one person in a Winnebago. So.
Right. That's
I'm gonna have a hard time painting this canonically because I really think that this thing is made for mean paint jobs.
Yeah. I've seen the Scooby-Doo mystery van proposed as a potential paint job.
I love it. But I will say, just to kind of like be sort of on our last topic, if the AA5 is like a reasonable like thing that can transport a unit of fleet troopers, like we may be having a different discussion in 4 months about the fleet trooper unit, right? Like if you can drive your fleet troopers across the map and have them get out in range 2, like defensively, like that might be pretty good.
I will say there's one thing that I need to like reread before these units come out, and that's how transport works, because transport rules are so goofy, and especially if they're full units,
they're confusing.
It gets really strange. But I do agree that if you can move some fleet troopers across the board in this 18 truck here, I'm all for it.
It's also worth mentioning that right now the transports in the game are what? The Occupier, the Land Speeder. Is that it?
Yeah.
Right? So both of those transports are open transports, and like those are the keywords, open transports. Like it's very clear from like what they showed us of the models and stuff, like the AA5 is like not an open transport, right? Like it's got 4 walls, a roof, and a floor, you know. So it'll be interesting to see like how different those rules are, because I mean I think the way they've been presented in the RRG as like these are the open transport rules, like, you know, it kind of suggests that there are closed transport rules, right?
Right.
Like,
well, hang on.
I think closed transport might
are
be
are there closed transport rules in the RRG?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. Maybe I don't.
While Kyle
read
looks
stuff
that up,
unless it's applicable generally.
While Kyle looks this up, my one quip about these units is the LAT LE is Republic and Empire dual unit. I wrote my article that I have mixed feelings about that, mainly because it feels like Republic keeps on getting these dual units, and I'd like to see that more across the board. That's all.
I think that's
transport
fair.
closed. Transport closed is in the RRG.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
The primary difference is that the unit inside can't be shot.
Can't be shot. Yeah.
Totally fair.
Which seems good for fleet troopers.
Which seems great for fleet troopers, right?
Seems good for Luke
like,
Skywalker.
You know,
Or that, yeah.
you know, and like the LAT, like I'm not sure it's gonna be closed because it's kind of like a helicopter thing, and if it's doing like a Black Hawky thing, maybe it's open. You know, who knows? But like if we assume for a second that both of these are like closed transports, like that's some game changing things right there, right? Like if you are like dumping Anakin and Kenobi out of helicopters, like maybe that becomes good, you know? I don't know. If you're delivering operative Luke into the middle of your opponent's army with him being untouchable, like does operative Luke get a lot better? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's clearly
Anakin Skywalker. If that thing is closed transport,
I mean, imagine like dropping Palpatine on his one pip out of a helicopter. You know, you know, like
brings new meaning to Pelt Bomb,
right?
doesn't it?
You know, like all of a sudden, like there's some like the Occupier like Palpamobile thing is kind of a joke already, but like Palpatine's not real safe when he does that, and it's kind of like a one-trick pony. But if you can put him in a helicopter for a reasonable price, like you know, and just drop him in the middle of the clone ball, like if you kill 4 clone units with Palpatine, does it really matter that you lost Palpatine? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just picturing Palp like descending, because he would descend. He would basically fly, I assume.
He'd be like
with his hands,
storm,
you know.
right? You know?
Yeah, just be like a lightning storm from the helicopter.
Oh man, I will say, the LAT model is cool as hell.
It is.
It looks like it's gonna be a real pain to put together.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And for the AA5, it's clunky, it's ugly, it feels very rebel-y. And for those crazy hobbyists that has an interior ready for you to paint, I will tell you this right now. I will not be painting the inside of that thing. I will just be throwing some paint on there and just be like, yeah, it's good.
You say that, but when I got my rhinos,
inside.
when I got my rhinos, you're like, oh, I'm not going to paint the inside, and then you get it, and you're like, oh, the door opens, and like you put the door on the hinges, like you don't glue your rhino doors to your rhino; they're on hinges, right? So you can open and close it when your dudes get out, and you can like make it look. I don't know. You say that now, but like if there's hinges on this thing, you're gonna paint the inside. I promise.
We'll see.
Yeah, I love how it looks. I know you said it's ugly. To me, it's like so Rebel.
Oh,
Totally. It looks exactly like if, Sergeant Bob was like, man, we need a transport for our squad. My mom's got something that I think could work if we slap some armor paints on it, armor plates. This is that, right? Like,
yeah, no, it totally
I
is.
love everything about it. I love how it looks.
It's super. Orky is maybe not the right word, but it's kind of got that vibe to it. I think.
Exactly. It's clearly like something that is repurposed from its original,
No,
whatever that purpose was.
So Rebels.
It was not as an
so
APC. So,
it doesn't make it pretty though. It is still ugly.
oh yeah, but it's ugly in like a charming way,
And I think a good paint job on that thing with like some, decaling it with like some like a Phoenix Squadron AA5 would look real cool if you did like painted it like Sabine would or something like.
Yeah,
this is totally Uncle Eddie from Christmas Vacation, and I'm gonna mod the hell out of this thing.
Oh yeah, could do some World War II style pinups on the side. I've seen people with those kind of decals, and there's a lot of flat surfaces on this thing. And it's also just begging to be like weathered by anyone with experience in that sort of thing. So, I'm excited to see the paint jobs on these. All right. Any other thoughts, gents?
No, we're gonna have to wait 4 months to find out. I guess. But I think so. For me, I'm not really that excited about the AA5 just because it does look a little bland, and I don't really play Rebels. However, I think that the LAT has only been seen in 2 IPs: Star Wars Rebels and Fallen Order. And it's kind of like a big deal I shouldn't say big deal, but it's like when the LAT shows up in Fallen Order, you're like, whoa,
Someone pointed out to my blog post, actually, it was in Clone Wars as well.
Okay.
I thought the same thing as you.
Yep.
Okay.
I first thought of Rebels because it makes me think of like when they're chasing down Ezra on Lothal. That's where I put my article.
Totally.
Like that's where my mind goes to right away. I played Fallen Order so fast I kind of forgot about that it's showing up, and now that you brought it up, I'm like, oh my god, that scene was like insane.
Yeah, you're literally like, oh my god, I'm screwed right now. Right?
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And then someone didn't bring up it's in Clone Wars as well, which makes sense because it's Republic.
I was a little bit curious about the Republic thing. I'm pretty sure the LE stands for law enforcement though, so it's defensible that it could be both. I think even if it didn't exist in the Clone Wars IP, so that's interesting.
Yeah, it's basically like the space version of a Black Hawk helicopter.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will say that I would prefer to have gotten the actual LAT. Which may be too big.
That'd be
for
enormous.
This game.
Dude, hey, come on, get out of here! Like we don't have big enough tables for that thing, man. I do agree it would be cool, but like, what size base would that be on? Like half the table? I mean, really?
I don't think it's that big. It's not.
It's
half
big.
The table big.
No, it's big. People have scaled this out. It's big. It'd be like. It wouldn't be like an AT-AT, but it would be unreasonably large if they made it properly to scale.
Well, we just need Star Wars Legion Epic version.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm happy to see these. I'm excited. I'm excited to put some fleet troopers in a party bus, and drive it around. I guess we have no idea what the stats are. And maybe it's made of peanut brittle and it's like not actually even more durable than the fleet troopers. Who knows?
That would be super depressing.
That would be.
I would cry. I haven't played Rebels in a while. Yeah. Even I would cry about that.
Yeah. Anyway, good luck to everyone still in Invader League. Round robin groups are starting to round out here. So, good luck to everyone. We've got a few weeks left to get those games in. We are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Mike.
I'm Zach.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.